Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third day of the Ethical Gem Fair Tucson 2021. It's my great pleasure this morning in the UK, to introduce you to Ian Bone from Capricorn Gems and Kathy Chappell from Fairtrade Gemstones, two of my colleagues with whom I work very closely on the UK Ethical Gem Fair. And they're going to be talking about all things related to some fantastic gemstones. So over to you, and enjoy the chat.
Thanks, Stuart. I don't know about this morning, mate. I mean, where I am, it's just about night time. In fact, 7 p.m. Coming from central Queensland. And, our day is just about expired where you guys are starting off. But it's always a pleasure to come on board and come into the UK at this time of day and have conversation. It's interesting, because I generally have 3 parts of my day, like early morning that I'm dealing with matters out of the US, stuff in Australia, and then I start to wind up again sort of around about 7 p.m. at night for the UK market, where I have clients and people coming online and wanting to have a chat or look at gems or something like that. So it's an interesting scenario when you're working in a global sense, I guess, in many respects. But anyway, enough about that. Let's have a bit of a chat about what we're up to, what Kathy's up to, what I'm up to, and collectively, I guess, what this group is up to too, and I guess why we decided to host this event this year, and I think perhaps a few insights into how we see this movement going further forward, given the fundamental changes, I suppose, all around the world that's happening with regard to this whole pandemic business. So, Kathy, tell us a little bit about yourself, and just a brief intro, if you like, and see how you go. I like this. I like your sign up there. I think you've done a fab job, mate.
To me, though, it looks at the front. I thought that's the sign we usually have at our gem shows, and I thought, sod it, I'll put it in my little office at home. And
it looks good. It looks great here, actually.
It's better than my messy books everywhere. So I started working from home actually a year last August for various reasons. I still hold my office in the London Diamond Bourse in Hatton Garden in London, but traveling and one thing and another sometimes gets a bit tricky. So I was all set up working from home, and with various security measures and what have you, and it's worked. I have to say it's worked really, really well. I send my stones out on APRO to people, and I must send about 4 or 5 a day, which I think is quite good for a small business. And I always send it recorded. We've had at Royal Mail, we've had a few mishaps. I mean, because of COVID, one time it took 3 weeks instead of the next day, but they've always turned up, and that's been beneficial. And then my clients tend to have a look at the stones, or they buy them straight away, and send them back if they don't. So that APRO system works really, really well for me. And yeah, so it's great. And I have to say, with COVID, what has come to the forefront is ethics in everything. And certainly I've noticed that with the London Diamond Bourse as well, because I'm on their board, I'm their ethics representative, and it's been startlingly apparent how much people want to know about origin and where the stones are coming from, which I think is, I would say it's about 70 to 80% up on last year. Oh, sorry, on the year before, when nobody was really talking about. So for me, the benefits of, if I'm going to take any benefits from the COVID situation, it is that people are asking more questions. And it tends to be, as well as it being always the younger generation, now I'm finding it is sort of the middle generation, of which I'm hoping I'm still one, that are asking these questions. So it's good. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the way the industry's going in that respect, and the fact that we're even having these conversations now, and it's worldwide, is fabulous. And this whole platform, I think, is a great start. And I think we might need next year to do a few tweaks and up our advertising a bit of mentioning. But yeah, That's me.
Yes.
I'll pop in later and finish.
That's great, Kathy, and I want to pick up on a couple of points there as we go through this this half-hour session, and particularly in this whole area of provenance. I want to come back to that a little bit shortly too, because there are things happening there. I think people should be aware of continuing. But yes, I mean, it's interesting to hear your views in terms of the COVID circumstance and how your business is developed within that space, and within the UK market, how you've sort of managed to adapt, but also you already had a fairly solid platform to work off anyway, and then how you've just sort of expanded and developed that and fine-tuned that, I suppose, in some respects to make this work. We've basically done the same with Capricorn Gems. 12 months ago, you could have spoken to me about a website and web sales and the like, and I would have looked at you as you're thinking, well, you've got to be kidding. I mean, that's just not for us. Well, of course, the whole thing's changed now after a 12-month period where we're in a situation of developing a fairly substantial website with practically most of our gemstones online now, and moving down a pathway of that basically becoming our shopfront for Capricorn Gems. So that's been a really interesting journey for us, and I think the adaptation of our customers, clients, designers has been remarkable. I think they've coming as a collective to realise and understand that the world's changing as well, and they can't necessarily go to shows, and that really I think engenders even much more trust on us as suppliers to really do the right thing in terms of supplying quality product. First and foremost, quality product that's second to none, but also to be as transparent, as open as possible, I suppose, about our businesses and all those accompanying things like sourcing, mining processes, etc., etc. So let me ask you a question, Kathy. How have you managed in terms of the sourcing through this period of time of the gemstones? Has that become a real challenge for you?
Yeah, normally it would. And speaking with Eric, because I represent Columbia Gem House in the UK, I think the fact that we carry a great deal of stock and inventory will see us through. Certainly, some of the mines, there is a problem. Like you've probably found, Ian, and I think Stuart was mentioning with Moyo Gems as well last night about viewing online and buying online. Yeah, COVID has impacted on that, and I'm hoping it won't carry on much longer. But my feeling is that until the third world countries are vaccinated, we're not going to see the flow as it used to be. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And I think that's got to be, God, I'm not a political person, but that has got to be paramount in opening up more countries as well. Certainly,
yes.
dreadful, and they've got to get these vaccines ASAP.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's restricted all sorts of movement of people everywhere in terms of back and forth to the various gem source locations, and even to some extent, gemstone dealers being able to go hither and thither around the world to actually source product, whether it be Bangkok, whether it be wherever. But that's sort of created some bottlenecks we understand as well. So again, it lends itself to the circumstance of having a presence and as an online presence and having a virtual event such as what we're doing here.
I'll tell you what I have found with the diamond situation. Because I buy Canada from the Dominion Diamond Company, they stopped mining probably a year ago now because they have financial difficulties as well. Historic debt, I believe, brought on when they took over the company, and then with COVID and what have you, didn't help. So they actually stopped mining. So getting new production was not possible. And buying the stones that are available from the various site holders, I've actually had to trail the lists. And normally where I would buy good SI1s and VSs, and I used to go up to as VS1 probably. I've now, because of the shortage, been buying VVS ones in diamonds, and they've still been selling. So that shows that the customer is absolutely paramount on wanting traceability. They're willing, well, my customers have been willing to pay that bit more for a better stone when usually they wouldn't. So that really does speak volumes.
Yes, it does.
Dominion are now starting to mine again, which will help, but it'll take a while for the production to get back. But that just shows you, I think, that the call there is for traceable stones.
Yes, yes. And it's interesting you were making mention of that before, that, you know, the numbers of people that would appear to be more interested and more requesting this sort of information now have reached some sort of tipping point, if you want to call, or some point where it becomes so-called more of a norm than an expectation, or than an exception, if you like, in terms of requesting this sort of information and this background and the assurances that are brought along with that supply chain. So that's a really interesting thing. So we, as a group, of course, as ethical gem suppliers, are always continuing to hone our business models to do better within our own businesses, but collectively as this group to try to bring about at least some sorts of change within the industry. And I think by virtue of us continuing to do what we do starting it off back in the UK 4 years ago now, and then continuing to do what we do, even though it is through a mechanism and a platform like this, I think it's a very important message we're sending to the market, that we are not going to go away. We're here, and we're going to continue to supply our products into that market, and to place those sorts of, I guess, expectations on ourselves to continue to refine the way that we do our businesses, and to better inform and better serve our market, which is obviously designer makers worldwide.
Yeah.
This has been just a quick point for me. It's been an interesting time, because normally I'm hither and thither around the world doing stuff, whether it be in the UK, whether it be in the US, whether it be in other places. And this is probably the most time I've spent in Australia for many, many years, I must say. But it's been a good thing, because it's enabled us within our Capricorn Gems business to become much more solid with our suppliers. Certainly myself, I mean, my business partner Rod has always had good relationships, but it's enabled me to become much more acquainted and understanding, and also for me to give the message back to these guys about what's happening out in that wide world, so that they start to get it a little bit as well, and particularly the younger miners, who, the sons and daughters of the older guys, particularly those guys are saying, well, okay, what do we need to do then? How do we need to embrace these changes? What's necessary back at the mine site to actually complement what you're doing in the marketing and in the sales side of things? And so this is really starting to have an impact, and it's been great for me to be here, because I can spend that time. I've been out to the mining area a number of times since last year, given I was here, and had conversations with people. We've done a lot of videos. We've got a big YouTube channel now, or a YouTube channel with quite a number of videos on it for people to look at. So we continue to do those sorts of things, but also to somewhat educate backwards, particularly our guys, who are really just small scale miners, little one-off shows, one man or two men shows, a bit of machinery, digging the dirt out there, trying to make a living. So what we're trying to do is to show them that, okay, what we're about is actually telling their story, but also putting in place a process and a mechanism for their pieces that they're finding to be identified from source right through the whole supply chain. So it's been useful. It's been an interesting thing for me from both a marketing side of things from the business to develop the website and all the associated things surrounding that, but also to work backwards with our supply chain and our people to sort of educate them and to bring them up to speed a little bit more about what's going on in the wide world.
I suppose also, Ian, mining in Australia, people would automatically think, oh, it's safe, it's secure, it's everything, because it's Australia and it's a first world country other than a third.
Yeah.
How have you found that when you've visited mine sites? How do you
Good question.
think?
It's mixed. It really is. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Australia was basically settled with mining, and particularly gold mining back in the day. And of course, then it extended out. And of course, the characters and the people surrounding all that are very independent, headstrong sort of guys, mostly guys. And they've gone and done what they do. And now, of course, with more compliance being, if you like, requested and expected, and in fact part of what it is, some have struggled with that, whereas others have embraced it and realised that is just what they have to do to get their licences and to maintain their licences more so than anything, and to be able to continue with their business of getting the leases to actually mine. So you are right. There is a perception that yes, everything is done, but there's always gaps. There's always something and perhaps someone that hasn't necessarily done the right thing, that it either needs to be identified or the like. But having said that, I mean, we do have a fairly strong platform, as you know, being Western country, basically. I mean, the rule of law for a start, and labour laws, environmental laws, native title laws, all that sort of stuff sort of underpin all of that sort of stuff anyway. So, there is a certain standard that has to be maintained before you even can put a shovel in the ground, so to speak. But in terms of, I think that in terms of managing that process with some of the older chaps, it's a bit of a struggle, and they need a bit of help along the way. But it's still fun, there's characters. I mean, all you have to do is visit, and you'll see these characters, and these characters of somewhat they make the whole thing in lots of ways, because they've got the stories, and they've got the history and the stories about what they've done and what they've. I don't know if anyone follows my Instagram. Just a quick aside here. I posted a nearly 20 carat sapphire that was found. Was cut. I just posted. I think it was the last or second last post that I made on Instagram the last day or two. This sapphire was found not long ago. It's cut into 19.9 carat stone. It's a yellow sapphire, like it's that big. It's a little bit of green in both corners. It's a modified square cut. Beautiful stone.
And I mean, the chap. Natural, Ian, wouldn't it? It's natural. Not
It was found out of a chunk of corundum that big. It was huge, and this has only been found like a month or so ago. And the miner that found it looked at it, and he just about was going to throw it away. Anyway, I kid you not, the story is he's going to throw it away because he didn't see any value. And anyway, his mate was there, and they said, "Oh, we should go and get this looked at." So they took it down to their cutting guy. This is out in the gemfields, just out here. In the gemfields, they took it out to this guy, and he's, "Oh, I think there might be something in that." So he just starts grinding it and grinding it. And meanwhile, he managed to get this 19 carat yellow sapphire out of it, plus a few other bits and pieces. So these stories happen. I mean, and this is what makes the whole part of the whole thing a lot of fun and a lot of interest, I guess. And you just never know. Yeah. Lots of things have happened in these gemstone fields, and of course, when things get better, you guys, we want you more years to come out and visit. It's lots of fun.
Yeah. There's one continent I haven't been to, so that's saying something. And definitely on my list, definitely. So, yeah,
Kathy, I just want to talk a little bit about your ideas on this provenance stuff a little bit more, and perhaps we can sort of extend that a little bit further too. You are aware of the provenance proof platform. You are aware of where this is progressing. What's your opinion about this? What's your view on the digitisation of provenance?
Are you talking sort of blockchain all the way back, Ian? I think it's great. There's the problem. There's one problem I've got, and it's a very good question, that, because being in the London Diamond Bourse and trying to find sourceable, back to the mine diamonds that have got provenance all the way through to cutting and polishing is a struggle. But one of the best blockchain platforms I found has been used by Alrosa, which of course is the Russian diamond mining company. Now, it's a fabulous site. What they're doing is completely traceable all the way through, even to naming the miner. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. But my people, my posse of followers, don't want Russian diamonds because of the Russian regime. And that's the problem, you see. We've got the traceability. We could sell those diamonds hand over fist. I'm just giving you an example with diamonds here. And it's a brilliant, brilliant platform. But the political situation is such that automatically people don't want to know. So how do we get past that? Because you can't blame the miner for who's running his country.
Absolutely.
So what do we do about this? And that's my big question. How do we support the miner without having to, without the government coming in? We can't, because it all goes back to their government.
No, unfortunately, when you're in a regime like that,
it's a no-win situation.
Yeah, that's the constraint you have, and it's just unfortunate that let's face it, that the diamond sourcing locations tend to be, for want of a better word, difficult locations to implement change and to implement
years ago, Ian, especially with the importation of coloured stones into the US, there was the Dodd-Frank agreement that prohibited you importing stones from conflict countries, and there was a big ban on Burma stones, and that seemed to have been relinquished quite a bit. But now, I just saw yesterday on JCK, they banned 3 more jewellers because of the Burma situation.
Well, exactly, and that's quite likely to rise again now, given the circumstances, what's going on over there. Exactly. That's true.
And I have to say, I fully support it. It's
it's those circumstances.
And again, it's impacting on the people on the ground in Myanmar, Burma, as it used to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's the politics, unfortunately, really.
Yeah, it is, Kathy. There's not much we can do about those things. I guess we continue to work within our businesses the best we possibly can. And I know some of our colleagues in the US really, trying their hardest to develop supply lines, supply change into the African continent on various gems. I know that Susan Wheeler's been very instrumental with the Virtue Gems business, the Moyo project with Stuart, and Stuart and I are going to talk about that tomorrow night. I'll ask him some questions about that. So there's lots of things. There's lots of good things happening, and I think there's good news stories here. I mean, it's not all problem, but there are obviously concerns and constraints, but there are some really good news stories of getting our supply lines and supply chain strengthened and developed, and accordingly social development programs that some of our members can support these communities back in, particularly back in the African countries, which vastly need.
Yeah, I know 20 years ago, Ian, when I started in this business, the internet wasn't anywhere near where it is now. And doing the right thing didn't get any publicity at all. But now it certainly does. And, it's, as we know, it's worldwide. And I think that's really, really beneficial.
I think it's helped a lot. And I think, this is important for us as a group to, and this, I think, is another reason, Kathy, why we wanted to do this program here. This week, rather than necessarily just throw our hands up in the air and do nothing. We wanted to continue the Tucson experience, so to speak, backed off last year's event, which we had our first ethical gem fair in the US. We also wanted to still maintain a presence in the UK because we, as you know, you've been a partner of all that process over the last 4 odd years. We didn't want to let that slide because it's unlikely whether we're going to get back to a face-to-face situation again anytime soon. So from a point of view of maintaining some momentum, it was vitally important that we got together in this sort of a forum, at least to have some contact, communication, and try to bring together a community, if you like, of gem suppliers. Ourselves, as you say, yourself and Stuart in the UK and others in the US, to sort of continue this momentum and then use the technology. Use the technology. We're experimenting, we're trialing, we're seeing how things are going. It's a bit of trial and error, but Absolutely. At least we're here having a go, and we're trying to do the best we possibly can to maintain those relationships back in with our designer friends.
Ian, which what I was saying the other day, your videos are fabulous on your social media sites. I mean, really, really well done, and the stones come across wonderfully brilliant. The colours right, the lights right, everything's in your favour. I think I struggle. I want a 3-year-old to come and help me because I honestly, I'm of that generation where I'm sort of self-taught and managing okay, but then finding the time to do the stuff on social media, that itself is a full-time job with all the platforms and getting out there. And it's just my Lord, I really do need a child to sort this out for me.
It is a steep learning curve, isn't it?
I'm employing children. We can't do that.
But having said that, you're right. I mean, it is a steep learning curve. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But a little bit further about our shows, about our events and our shows. There will be a time come when we'll be back face to face. I'll be back over in the UK. We'll do another London, Edinburgh, perhaps a Bristol event. We're not going away. This is a glitch in the system, and we'll be back over. We've got very close relationships with the UK from Australia. It goes without saying. So these things are going to continue. In the meantime, we'll do the business, we'll create the relationships, we'll continue on with doing what we do, and supplying our gems and all the other material, the images, the videos, or the stories as best we possibly can to enable, our customers and designers to run their businesses basically, and to make a living and to produce some beautiful pieces. So that's the sort of thing that we see, I think, going forward and this is really interesting in terms of this, when things get back to normal, so-called, it's quite likely that we'll actually keep this sort of a platform running concurrently with what we're doing in shows. So, to that effect, I think that we're going to be able to, base a show in Tucson, for example, but yet do a whole online event at the same time. So the people can't get there, can still access the event and obviously the goods, and talk with people or have interviews or have a discussion or conversation or whatever. I know it's not the same as being there, of course, but at least it gives people a bit of a sense of a feeling. But also into the UK, our next UK show, whenever that might be, it's quite likely that we're going to see a couple of our US colleagues come over to London for that event. They want to come over. They've said that they want to come over.
Yeah.
So we'll see them. We'll see the likes of Monica. Well, she was going to come over, of course, with the last show would be cancelled, so it didn't happen. But we'll see the likes of Monica and Jay. I'll come across the Atlantic there, and I'll come to London, and we'll do a physical show there. But we'll probably also do an online event at the same time as well, because we see that this is complementary to the face-to-face business type operation.
Brilliant.
Oh, here he is.
On that excellent point, we should bring things to a close. We're up to the half an hour. That's been an amazing chat. You have covered so much ground there in those 30 minutes, really explaining a lot of the challenges, the trials and tribulations that we face as gem traders, especially as responsible gem traders, but also I think showing clearly that there are so many reasons for optimism for going forward, and how the industry can change and adapt, and it can be better in the future. So yeah, thank you very much, both of you, for that. And I'm really glad this session's being recorded and it will be available somewhere, because I think I'm definitely going to have to watch it again at least once to cover and remember all of the points that you've made during the session. So thank you very much again. And
you and I, just a quick one, plug for Nick tomorrow night, mate. Or tomorrow morning, your time, of course.
You'll see our lovely faces again. Yeah, you see our lovely faces again.
We're going hammer and tongs. We're into it, mate. So beware. I'm going to be asking you some probing questions.
I look forward to that. Yes, and so now I invite everyone to head over to the lounge where you can continue the conversations with us. So thanks again.
Thanks very much.
See you soon.
Yeah, thank you.